Welcome to Writer Therapy, a space for serious writers to talk openly about creativity, workflow, balance, and everything in between. Join us for casual conversations about craft, the writing life, and why we keep coming back to the page. No matter where you are in your writing, you're welcome here. This is Writer Therapy. Today we're speaking with MC Terriche, author of This Could Be Paradise. She is passionate about emotionally driven storytelling through resilient yet imperfect characters. Terriche's work is a reminder that, if given the chance, life's hardest chapters can lead to paradise.
So yeah, tell me about yourself and about your writing career.
Yeah, so my pen name is MC Terriche. How I came up with that was my real name is Casey Marie. So I just took the first two letters, swapped those, and then I grew up on a street called Richland. So loosely translated, again, not a French speaker,
Yeah.
don't claim to be, but Terriche means Richland in French. So I just kind of smashed them together in Terriche. So that's how I got my pen name.
I love it.
I'm from New Orleans originally. I moved to Nashville about 3.5 years ago. And my background is engineering. And I've done a bunch of technical writing. So I have publications in like journals and things like that. Pretty dry stuff
Right.
that you wouldn't typically read unless you're in the industry. But I've always loved writing, and I've wanted to take a stab at fiction. So that's kind of like the condensed version of how I ended up self-publishing these two books.
And so it's This Could Be Paradise, book 1 and 2, and they're
Yes.
novellas, correct?
Yes,
So
exactly.
what is it, 90,000 words or less?
I want to say it's something like that. I think it's typically around like 150 to 200-ish pages.
Okay.
Is like a novella length. Yeah. I had to learn all this because I was like, what's the difference between a short story, a novella, right? Because there's so many different ways that you can publish.
And so tell me about that series and what was like the genesis of it. And so this is, I assume, this idea like pushed you into writing fiction. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So it is a fiction, but it is loosely based on my experience. So a lot of it has to do with identity. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially when you get, about 10 years into your career. And sometimes you'll find yourself sitting there and thinking, is this it? Like, I just work the rest of my life and then I die. It's melodramatic, but you see what I'm saying. So a lot of it just has to do with identity. You wake up one day and you are like, this isn't really how I envisioned my life. And then what do you do about it? So this follows the main character's journey. So her name is Mina Stone, and it follows her journey of like finding her identity. And so the title of the book, This Could Be Paradise, also has to do with finding your paradise or finding your happiness, and how it's not an easy road to do that by any means. So the first book is the setup. It's how she kind of deals with like, what are all the emotions that go into like, do I really want to blow up my life essentially because I'm just so unhappy? It's a really difficult decision to make. So the first book's the setup. The second book is what happens after she makes the decision to leave. And again, it's not really a spoiler. You kind of know early on that's, if she didn't leave, there would be no conflict. Right. So what would the story be?
Honestly, believing a lot of people cope with that. That's like, honestly, it feels like that's the big battle. But then now you have this new life to contend with, right? And that's a whole new battle, a whole new book.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Exactly. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I'm on the right path now, so I'm just going to assume that things are going to get better. And that's not necessarily the case. Like, that's not always the right assumption to make.
Yeah. When did you finish book 2?
I published it on April 14th. So a little over a week ago.
Great. Yeah. And so just my next thought is, okay, so is there like a book 3 already like in your mind, or like where is it going as far as a series?
Yeah, so book 3 I plan on releasing next year, and it's basically just going to be wrapping up. So very typical trilogy kind of
Yeah.
formula, set up the main conflict, like what's going on with the character. And then book 3 will be okay, like how does this wrap up for Mina, and like what what ends up happening for her long term, and
And
seeing that come to a close.
and are you like an outliner, a pantser or outliner? What's your like approach? Like did you have like a book 2 and 3 in mind when you started book 1, or what was kind of your journey in that regard?
So it's funny you ask that, because even though I'm an engineer, I don't really have a formula that I follow for book writing,
Hmm.
which sounds weird. I think that, I mean, outline, like I don't have very detailed outlines when I start writing, but I have like, okay, this is like a very high level of what the story is,
Right.
subject to change, of course, which
Always.
I do often.
Yeah.
Uh, So I do have some semblance of an outline when I start. I'm a very big, like I love personally when books reach back to something and reference something that you're like, oh my God, like didn't see the tie in there, but now I do. Like
Hmm.
I love stuff like that when it comes back around. So I try to do that in my writing. So you'll see that between books 1 and 2. So there's going to be certain callbacks that I'll like make a note of, that I
Hmm.
want to revisit in the next book. So you'll see stuff like that. So as far as having the third book written, it's probably the least. So book 1 and 2, I basically finished those at the same time.
Okay, well.
Book 2 I mean, rewrite is probably a strong word, but I mean, I did rewrite it multiple times.
Would you say like people say rewrite, and I think like really rewrite? Like, did you start with a blank page and rewrite, or did you like heavily edit? Like, what would you say?
Heavily edit is probably
Yeah, yeah.
closer. Because there were certain parts of the book where I liked it from the get-go and I didn't touch
Right.
it. Probably 2/3 of it I like scrapped. Like there's some stuff that I did scrap completely and start over, but just sections of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also based on feedback I got from beta readers and ARC readers, I made adjustments for that stuff too.
Nice.
But yeah, so yeah, I really don't have a formula for it. I probably need to be better about that, because I know that having a system to do things makes things like way more efficient and straightforward. But I also kind of like the freedom of not
Mm.
having that, because like especially what I do for a living, everything is so structured
Yeah, I can imagine.
that it's nice to have one aspect that isn't like, all right, step 1, step 2, step 3. I like having the flow and freedom to kind of play with that.
And truthfully, I think I find that I wrote a book. It was going to be the same as it would be like a 3-part series.
Hmm.
And I wrote the first book, and I noticed it just like it didn't like end on anything, because it was really like the part 1. So then I tried to redo it and make it so it was all just one big gigantic book. And then I just like, I'm going to put this aside and like come up with something more like simple. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
chronological. And I found though the perk of that was that like I figured out my workflow through that. So like I think I needed like a simpler project, but that really trained me to come up with like a workflow. And then so I think working freely and allowing yourself to kind of like, as they always say, it's like you break the rules to like create new, better ones, and that's like the right move. And so as an engineer, like what kind of field are you in? Because I mean, engineering is pretty broad, right?
So I'm an industrial engineer.
Okay.
So basically, when people typically think of engineers, they think, oh, someone that builds, a widget or like a rocket, or so I
Right.
don't really do that. I'm more in the process and people aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what I do is like building a process that's efficient and cost effective, and then how do you integrate people into that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what I do as far as engineering goes.
Is it like manufacturing or yeah, okay.
So most of my background is in manufacturing. I have done work in energy, so like windmills, so like green energy,
Mm-hmm.
And I've also done work in construction for data centers for a
Okay.
little while. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything, but mostly manufacturing is my
Hmm.
background.
And so how does your schedule work like for writing? I saw that you do music, and I mean Nashville, that's kind of, you have to, right?
Yeah.
So how do you, mix writing with your work life? How does that work for you?
Um, it's kind of tough sometimes just because when you work a full-time job, it's a full-time job. So
Right.
there's some weeks where, I just find myself being like, I don't have the brain power to sit down and write something. What I do like is work gives me opportunities to have observations and things to write about
Hmm.
than if I was just sitting in here
It's
behind a
true.
computer. So it kind of forces me to look at things from a work perspective, but then adapt it to like an observation, like, oh, like, and then I'll like jot down. So I have notes, like I have sticky notes everywhere. Like my desk is
Right.
a mess. I'm glad y'all
Yeah.
can't see right
Yeah,
now.
mine is. Yeah.
Yeah, sticky notes everywhere. I almost always have a notebook with me to write stuff down. My notes app on my phone has a bunch of people. If people saw it, they'd probably be like, this person is crazy because they
Yeah,
just have a
yeah.
bunch of ramblings, random stuff. Um, and I actually, whenever I'm actually like sitting at my computer and writing, I have, this is probably not the best way to organize it. I need to figure out a better way. If I like take something out of a book, I don't just delete it. What I'll do is
Hmm.
I'll put it in another Word doc.
Yeah, great idea.
And it's called, so I call it lagniappe, which
Okay.
is a New Orleans thing for sure. So it's a French term and it means a little extra.
Okay.
So if I'm like, okay, like but I really liked this though, so maybe I can use this nugget for something else down the
That's
road,
great.
then I'll throw it in that Word doc.
That was in Stephen King's On Writing. Did you ever read that?
No, it's on my list though, for
It's
sure.
it's good. But
Yeah.
what his whole thing, and it's like to kill your darlings, and the idea is, you'll have a paragraph that you love, and there's just this nice concept, this nice, anecdote, but you just set it aside. You don't have to lose it. Yeah, I find like I just copy, like I just duplicate my drafts, and I think, you know
Yes.
what, if I'm really so attached to that thing, I'll remember it, and if I
Mhm.
don't remember it, it won't. Then it really wasn't that great. One question I have is, so you set up This Could Be Paradise as three novellas, and I kind of like this idea because I think a lot of the challenge that writers have is like just getting to the point of like finishing and putting something out there, and that's a
Mhm.
really, I'm sure it's like a really intense moment. But I like the idea that you have like a complete story, but you split it up in such a way that you can like put it out in bite-sized pieces. What
Yes.
was why make that decision versus just making one novel?
So, um, whenever I was first doing this or like first trying to figure out like, okay, like how do I want to structure this? And just for me, from a work perspective, it was a lot easier for me to look at it in
Mm,
like smaller chunks, like you were saying, instead of being like, I'm gonna write a 500-page book at one time. Like
right.
my brain would just go on the fritz if I thought
Yeah.
about like having to do that. So now obviously there's other work involved whenever you do multiple books. So you have to market each one, you have to make a new cover for each one.
Hmm.
But just from like the writing and editing perspective, it was a lot easier for me to digest that and to get that out there and have, it's important to have those stepping stones, right? Where you're like, okay, like I did it. So
Yeah.
now you build momentum for yourself to be like, okay, well now let me do the next one. And then that way you're not, for me personally, I'm not sitting here for 5 years and in
Right.
my head being like, I still have nothing to show for this.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm finding that's the frustration where I keep telling everyone how, like, and I'm really proud of it. But when I first wrote my book, I just like let it go. I just went, and it was
Yeah.
like 300,000 words. It was really big. And then, but I know that that's not acceptable, especially because it's like once you really crack at it, once you really think about it, you give confidence to the reader. They don't need all this information. I mean, I've
Hmm.
been able to cut it down to like under 200 at this point, and I can just see, and now I'm like doing it like a kind of a final polish pass. But I do have that moment every once in a while where I'm just like, okay, all this work, all these hours, and it's like
Yeah.
there's nothing there for it. So I like that idea. That's a great thing for writers to think about. Is you can release it however you want. I mean, that's the beauty of
Yeah.
self-publishing. How
Oh,
you
yeah.
found the self-publishing process? Like, is it daunting? Is it something where, did you find a resource that kind of guided you through? How did you go about that?
So I've only done things through KDP.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to get my books on Ingram Spark. Now that has been a pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anything against Ingram or anything like that. It may be something I'm doing. I don't know. But it's just been, I still don't even have book one on Ingram Spark.
So can you tell for people like me, like the layman writers out there, what is Ingram Spark and what's the benefit of it? What is it?
Ingram Spark is a distributor.
Okay.
So this is my understanding of it. So I don't know if it's going to be
Yeah.
100% correct, but
Don't
I'll just tell
quote.
you what
No
I
way.
know. Yeah, I'll preface it with that.
Yeah.
So they're a distributor, and why it's valuable to have your books on Ingram Spark. So like people like you and I, like if you're like, I'm gonna go buy Casey's book, or I'm gonna go buy Tim's book, you're not gonna go on Ingram and be able to get it. It's meant for bookstores.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of independent bookstores don't want to buy from Amazon. So I understand that. Totally get that.
Yeah.
So what they do instead is they go through Ingram because they have a lot better like terms and things like that for bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the trade-off there is that but you have to have your book available on there, obviously, so that independent bookstores can buy your title. But here's the catch though. If you do that, you can have your books on Kindle Direct Publishing, but you cannot have them available for expanded distribution. So you have to kind of weigh the options, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, do I just do Amazon and just do expanded distribution, but knowing that I may not get my books into indie bookstores?
I see.
Or do you say, okay, I'm not going to do expanded distribution on Kindle Kindle Amazon on Kindle Direct Publishing, and I am going to go through Ingram Spark. That way, if indie bookstores do want to purchase and sell my book, then it's available for them to do that.
Right.
Because I've walked into a few indie bookstores around town, and a lot of them were like, look, we only buy through Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
So if your book's not on there, because they don't buy direct from the author.
Right.
So that was something I learned. I didn't know that was even a thing until I started going to different bookstores.
It seems like, Amazon, I mean, basically Amazon knows the cards it has, essentially, where they can kind of, put everyone in there.
Yeah.
I saw that with 11 Labs, 11 Labs. I use it for work. I'm a videographer, photographer, so I've used it to do voiceovers for clients and things like that. And I use it for writing to have it read my chapters back to me.
Oh, cool.
But I watched a tutorial on making audiobooks on it. So you can make an audiobook through it, and you can distribute it right through 11 Labs. It'll go on Spotify and everything like that, but you can't use Audible. And Audible has to be a human voice, which is kind of a good thing for the voiceover artists. But
yeah,
it's interesting. They know. I mean, that's a situation where they're using their power for good, if you will. But
yeah. So speaking of audiobooks, because I know that's a big medium now that people like to use. For the first book, I did do an audiobook. I did it myself. So
nice.
my fiance is a drummer, and he does recording projects. So I have the advantage of someone that knows how to set up the microphone and do the sound for me. I was like, thank you, because I haven't the first clue about that kind of stuff. So I am going to do it for a second book. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. And let me tell you, it was so much fun. I loved doing it. Yeah, because you got to, another advantage too, especially if you do it before you release it, you're forced to basically read it out loud to yourself. And there were a lot of times where for the first book, I would pause and I would be like, wait, this isn't really coming across how I want it
Right.
to, especially for dialogue. Unless you read it out loud, you don't know if it sounds authentic or not, because it can sound good when you're reading it to yourself. But then when you read it back, you're like, people don't talk like this. It sounds robotic.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yeah.
have. Like, I have a 11 reader, so I upload my PDF of like all my latest draft, and I have like Burt Reynolds reading it back to me. And so, they exaggerate Burt Reynolds, and he's kind of got this. It's really over expressionate, but it's exactly that. You can hear like, does this sound authentic? Does this sound real? Does that sentence make sense? It's a great part of my workflow. I love that. Are you able to like see metrics of, people who buy the book versus listen to the audiobook? Like, what have you seen for that?
Yeah, so I've definitely seen a lot more people purchase the book than do the audiobook, but that also may be because I pushed the
Right.
ebook and paperback way more than I did the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
But it is out there. But I think too, what might make it easier, and I'll see this time around since I did it differently, doing like the timed release. So doing the ebook and paperback first, and then doing the audiobook like a month from now.
Mm-hmm.
And because then that way you can kind of, and again, like we were talking about the chunks, right? Because I'm not a marketer or salesperson.
It's
That's
like,
not in my
I don't want to do it.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I know. So I think that having a few weeks to be like, okay, like let me push the book, like the physical formats and the ebook. And then whenever I release the audiobook, okay, well now I can focus my attention on, hey, if you like listening to it in the car or something, here's
Yeah.
this format that's available to you.
It also gives you another excuse, another like release push, right? Like a whole new cycle of
Yeah.
release. Yeah. Clever. I like that. That's a good tip. So, do you have anyone in your life like that you talk to about writing? How's your writer life? Are you alone out there, or you have friends that write or anything like that?
Yeah, so what's crazy is that Nashville, and I've been talking to a lot of people about this recently, because whenever I tell them that I write, they're like, "Oh, but you live in Nashville?" And I'm like, "This is what I think I'm noticing. Nashville has a very strong and talented songwriter community, right? Makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Music City. Writing in all formats, right? So poetry, short stories, novels. It's kind of adjacent to that.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see a lot of crossover. You'll have musicians that will write. I have a friend that is a songwriter and a musician, and she's actually working on a novel. So we're able to like commiserate about
Yeah.
things. But Nashville has a very, very big writing community.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
so yeah, and I found out all this, once I started writing, and I was like shocked because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and what's great about Nashville, it's very inclusive and it's a very collaborative environment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of resources out there, a lot of like there's this one group that's run by a woman named Amy McConnell, and she does a really great job having resources for new authors. And there's also this group called The Porch that does like training and lessons, and they'll bring in like subject matter experts.
Oh,
And
wow.
they'll do courses and classes. And so Nashville's really, really great. Like if you're an author out there and you're like, well, I don't want to move to New York City.
Yeah.
um, Look, New York's great, but it is very expensive. Nashville has a really, really great writing community.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have thought that. And do you play music yourself at all? Like, is that? I saw something of you on the drums, and then it looked like singing, but maybe you were recording your audiobook.
Yeah, that was definitely the audiobook.
Okay, yeah.
But I do play drums. I tell people I know how to play drums. I don't really call myself like a drummer musician, but I am, and I'm actually in a girl group.
Nice.
We've written a bunch of songs together, which that's really fun too, because again, it's like writing, but just another form of it.
Yeah.
But because I'm a drummer, I kind of lack in the actual songwriting department.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a lyrics person.
Right.
So I'm more of a lyricist than a songwriter.
I think
Yeah.
writing lyrics is something that it's funny because it's like poetry, I mean, poetry, you have to figure out a format.
Yeah.
Writing a song, I think it's like yeah, you can write the words and they can like sound good on paper, but you have to now translate it into a melody, and it has to
Yeah.
like the temptation is sometimes to have the melody follow the music exactly, or so you have to have them. They have to like dance in a certain way, and that's a challenge. It's really not as like you
Oh
don't just
yeah.
like
No.
shoot a song out. It really is a tricky. But that's a fun. I used to write a lot of music. Like when I was a teenager, I was writing all sorts of songs, and even now, like they come to me. But it's a really fun process, especially with people. It's a good time. Well,
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah.
my community is writer therapy. The idea is just like this, like a place where authors can talk to each other and be, just be honest about the process and talk about our troubles and our challenges, but also our victories and all those things. How could a community like that serve a writer like you? Like, what can I do? I'm just trying to get a sense of like where I can go with this to help other writers and make it actually a valuable community to writers. Like, what's something that you feel like you need in your writer life?
Yeah, I think that any community that offers some sort of resources. So let's say if I have a group that helps with like marketing or stuff like that, like things where maybe aren't typically authors' strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times, I know for me, you don't know where to start. And that can kind of be like paralyzing almost, where you're like,
Right.
I don't even know where to look or where to begin. So I think that having things like that, or even discussions where it's like, hey, what have you done that's worked for you?
Yeah.
And having that available to people, I think would be super helpful.
So that's a great idea, like, because so I'm doing a lot of these interviews. For example, I interviewed someone a couple days ago who he's come out with he's got like 14 books. I think of people like that who have a great grasp on all that, and then people like you who also you took it from a different approach. I really like that idea of you can have the full story you want, but you don't have to like spend these years trying to craft it. You can focus on a small subject.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It was great talking to you. And I want to talk when the next book comes out. Let me know, and we'll meet again, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love that. That sounds great.
You can learn more about today's guest in the description and show notes. If you're a writer looking for a focused, encouraging, and authentic creative community, join us at school.com/writertherapy. Whether you're outlining your first idea, deep into revisions, published, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next session.